Hey everyone, David here with another development update for my sci-fi indie game Arcadian Rift. After finishing last month's devlog, I spent a bit of time bug fixing, cleaning some of the code. One of the main fixes was redesigning the way interactions work. Previously, the player was able to interact with things through a wall or a closed door, but now it requires a line of sight from the player. Despite a small feature, this actually required a rewrite of my entire interaction system, basically. Made a slew of new bugs, which I also had to fix, but the new system actually works better, it's a little more accurate, and it even allows for multiple interaction points on one object. After that, I began my main task for this month, which was to focus on one cargo ship and see how far I could kind of bring it to completion so I could put gameplay to the test. This began by brainstorming and digging through old ideas on what different ships might be. I narrowed it down to 5 different ship types that you'll be boarding, each of which will have slightly different visual design, art, encounters, puzzles, kind of gameplay, etc. The types of ships are cargo, salvage, mining, military, and derelict. This, of course, might change as time goes on, but this is kind of how I'm looking at things at the moment. So I spent the next few days doing nothing but layout ideas for what the ship would look like, how it would be arranged for the player to navigate. I tried so many different methods of coming up with ideas. I drew things on paper, I modeled small chunks and tried kind of arranging them, I tried modeling things in 2D. I really wanted the design and layout to be interesting for the player, allow for cargo space, fit with the function of the ship, have a good vista when they come in, and eventually I had the interesting idea of that kind of you follow the process of the salvaged material itself being reprocessed inside the ship. You'd start in a room where the scrap is kind of being held, and it would move along conveyor belts and get processed, and as you move through the level, you can kind of follow along with the ship itself in the process. That way there's this kind of nice blend between the level design and the lore of the ship. I then spent a bit of time figuring out, what exactly is the reprocessing assembly line going to involve, and which of these can actually affect gameplay and aren't just purely artistic, before eventually assembling the ship itself. This took another few days. A lot of designs I just wasn't really happy with, but eventually I started getting something that I was happy with, including a lot of hidden spaces, crawl areas, special loot rooms, and this resulted in the first complete cargo ship layout for the salvage freighter. After the ship was fully laid out with the basic pieces, I did bring it into Unreal briefly to kind of check sizes, distances, and other things I like doing in this layout stage. And then after being giving that the thumbs up, the art process began, which took most of the month for me, at least multiple weeks, at least a good 2 weeks or more, and I'm still doing art to this day on this ship. I had a few modular assets that I had made in the past, which I mentioned in the last devlog, but I realized that I needed to make larger prefabs out of these small modular assets. Otherwise, I was just one little floor piece at a time. Assembling the ship was just going to take way too long. So I made these big chunks of floors, chunks of roofs out of the small pieces to make bigger modular pieces. And in addition to making a ton of prefab pieces, I also expanded the modular library with a ton of new pieces. Some are quite simple, just new walls and stuff, but others were more complex, such as cranes, generators, crushers, and more. Things like railings, under things for walkway. And this was kind of the point of making the ship, is that I really got to see which modular pieces I was missing, what I really needed to build a good-looking ship. The most complex was a robotic arm I designed, rigged, and even animated, which would be kind of scraping off metal from a large piece of scrap. With a bit of hassle with the kind of animation exports, I was able to bring it all into Unreal, add the laser effects that I had already made, so it appears that it's kind of working away at the scrap. Once all the art was done, I began the long process of prepping, UV unwrapping, adding materials, and exporting all of these art things into Unreal. That way I could import them all, set up all the materials in Unreal, and arrange them around to kind of match the Blender model. This took, honestly, another few weeks, which meant that the month was already almost over by the time I finally had this ship into Unreal and all set up. But over the last days, I've been setting up a little bit of lighting so I can actually see what's going on inside the ship. I didn't have lighting reference in Blender this time around, so I just started setting up the lights directly in Unreal. I had to separate the lighting by each room for performance reasons in the editor, but overall I think I got something that I'm fairly happy with for now at least. Can start using it to test the gameplay. I also did a bit of extra work on these doors, which separate the rooms. While I was brainstorming, I made a big triangle of how the player will proceed and advance deeper into the ships to get to the better loot. On the 3 corners are combat, exploration, and puzzles. The idea is that advancing through missions will require tasks that fall somewhere within this triangle. Some tasks are purely combat, some are purely puzzles, however most will be a mixture, maybe a little bit of puzzling and some exploration to find the things you need for the puzzle. I was only able to get one of these features in the game with the amount of time I had left in this month, which was the powering up of the key. Using the Q cannon, you can find and pick up these little power keys that slot in this little thing next to the door that can power them up so you can open the door. Although at the moment I'm thinking I might need to redesign it a little bit, as it's kind of hard to tell that's what to do. I might need to make some little indications that it's clearly that's what that thing's for. And that's it for this month. I was hoping to get a lot more done, but I totally underestimated just how long it's going to take to model and set up all the new art, converting everything into Unreal and setting all the stuff up. The advantage, though, is that now that I have, loads of assets made, setting up the next few ships should be way easier, to the point where I might even be able to start setting up ships in Unreal itself and just find out whatever I'm missing and then kind of model that separately. I've got like my library of Lego-like pieces I can kind of play with. My goal for the next month is to focus on the gameplay of this mission, this ship. That was kind of what I was hoping to do this month, but the art took so long that now I've got a full month where I can, maybe by the end of the month, have this mission into something that is fun and completely playable, to the point where I can even start letting people playtest it and tell me what they think. As long as I can get like one mission fun and enjoyable, I can know how to kind of make the remaining ships. I can make things that kind of play similar, and I'll know kind of what the game overall seems like it's kind of lacking. And that's all for this month. Thanks everyone for watching and following the project, and a special thanks to all of my patrons: Fadeless Banjo, Larthan, Samuel Kyber, Pixel Xenimation, Justin Spielafreakj, Brass Kicker, Judo the Survivor, Brett Play MC, Isaac X, Osranium, Anthony Brandt, Benefits, and Blue Angel. All of you guys pledged to my Patreon on this first month, even when I didn't have many rewards or anything. So thank you so much for helping support this game and my work. And if you're interested in becoming a patron, you can check out the link in the description. Hopefully in a few months, when the game's getting a little closer to release, I can add a few more of those remaining rewards, such as having things like your name in the game itself in the credits, or maybe becoming early beta testers or something. I'm not too sure about the playtesting and beta testing as a patron reward, however, because I think that might be something I just want to just let people test it. I'm going to need a lot of people to playtest, so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that. Unless anyone has any ideas, I could do something where it's just like every month you just get a copy of the game that you can play in addition to the regular playtesting stuff. But let me know what you think if anyone has any new patron ideas, patron rewards and stuff. Let me know comments below. I did enjoy reading comments from last video. I read through people's ideas and stuff, definitely keeping things in mind. At the moment, it's a little too early to start, adding in features from people's ideas at the moment, just because I'm still busy trying to get the actual game functioning. But I'm absolutely keeping in mind what people are suggesting, what people seem to be kind of interested in. And once I start getting the main game down, I'll definitely start seeing if there's a lot of people seem to be talking about something that seems like they all want, try to focus on getting that kind of thing into the game if possible. So that's it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next month. Maybe not all of you will watch this next month. I'll see some of you next month. Goodbye.